we grew up together. We met when we were 11 in 5th grade. We were best friends all through high school. There was definitely feelings on both sides as we were younger, but it was never anything that we pursued until after college. Well, after high school, in college, we started dating in 2006. We did not date very long, about 8 months, and then he proposed, which was awesome, earlier than what we had planned. But we took 13 months, then we got married. God had always put on our heart that we wanted to be parents. We didn't know that that was God putting anything on our hearts. We just knew that we wanted to grow up and get married and have a family. Got married, we were like, yeah, of course, want to be parents. What's our plan? I don't know, like maybe 5 years after we get married. And so we find ourselves at like year 4. We renewed our vows. We're like, wow, do you think we'll be ready for kids in like a year, like our original plan? We're like, well, let's just kind of see how it goes. We had just moved to Knoxville, Tennessee, and Mitchell was traveling a lot. I started a business online. I took my business 100% online rather than being kind of hybrid, personal training in person and then doing nutrition things online. So we were busy in pursuing that. And so when we moved again to Connecticut, we decided to stop preventing it, but not really try. We were just gonna not prevent it. So we started there, and after about a year and a half, we were like, oh, well, nothing's really happening. I guess we should kind of go get some tests. So we waited again, because we ended up moving again, which brought us to the seacoast. And when I found a doctor, I was like, well, I want to find a doctor that has experience with infertility. I'd already read online. I had tons of friends that had experienced it, and up until this point, we hadn't really been burdened by it. We were just kind of like, all right, well, if there is an issue, we like to be very proactive. And with my nerdy self and loving to understand the human body and all aspects of, you know, how our bodies react to different things, I was kind of curious about everything. So I'm doing tons of reading. I see a doctor and they're like, okay, well, let's all start on the initial tests. I had been taking my temperature at like 5 in the morning consistently. I had been doing all the other fertility tracking methods to track ovulation and everything. And we were, you know, doing the timing. We'd been doing this for probably a solid 9 or 10 months. And I knew that the doctor was going to want at least 6 months of good data. And so I felt like there were a couple months in there where I didn't get good data. And so I wanted to be the good little student. So I go and present her information, and of course she was like, oh yeah, this is, I mean, something should have happened by now. Let's run some tests. So we run some initial tests, and honestly, up until this point, we thought that, of course, infertility must have been on my side. Irregular cycles had been in my family, my sisters and my mom, and I don't think they had trouble necessarily getting pregnant. Obviously I'm here, but my sisters also have children. But we just kind of thought about it, and it didn't take long. We did one of the first tests, and it came back that maybe the issue might lie on Mitchell's side. And so fast forward, after a couple months, we did more tests, and sure enough, from what the doctors could tell so far, the infertility was on Mitchell's side, from like a blockage, a tiny little calcium deposit in a place that you can't really do surgery. So we looked at all the different options. Again, I guess the joy is that we weren't necessarily burdened as much as we were pretty surprised. We were like, oh, wow. We were sort of expecting an infertility journey. We were just expecting it in a different way. And I know that I don't want to speak for Mitchell, but Mitchell himself was really prepared to like be my backbone, be my shoulder to cry on. At like, honey, it's okay. You've been made perfectly. And all this stuff. And so when the test kind of came back that said the infertility was on his side, we hadn't really prepared for that. I mean, I felt like I stepped right up to the plate and was like, well, I mean, there was never any doubt that you're the husband for me. There's never any doubt that we weren't meant to have children. You were made perfectly. Like, all this stuff was still going through my head, but it was just a different dynamic. And so after doing the test and after learning that the only option for us to have biological children was to go through in vitro fertilization, which is called IVF, we decided just to kind of take a year off. Kind of a side story is that I have this hobby of bodybuilding and physique competitions that requires me to be very low body fat. And so for the last several years, I had chosen not to compete or not to pursue that in an effort to just keep a higher body fat, make sure that my hormonal levels were in a good place, that my stress levels were in a good place, all trying to pursue fertility. So when we found out that it was going to be a little bit, because if anybody knows about IVF, it's quite expensive and not covered by our insurance, not covered by many insurances. We were like, okay, well, now we have goals, and we like having goals, we like being proactive. And so I was like, well, why don't I compete? So 2015, kind of the last half of it, from about June to November, just turned into competition prep, and it was amazing. In years past, competition prep had been very stressful on myself, but also our relationship, and we approached this totally different. I know that we approached it different because we're different people. My motivations in life are in a completely different place than what they were when I was competing previously, like in 2007 and in 2008 and 2009. So at the end of 2015, we knew that 2016 was just going to be our year of hanging out, of saving, but also we received a lot of really, really great counsel and wisdom from many friends and family that have been on the infertility journey. And one of the best things that I heard from a very dear friend and family member is not to get tunnel vision, to be diligent in your saving, but don't stop living life. That was a mistake that her and her husband felt like they had made in the beginning, and that was something that they had learned. And so it's such a gift to have been given that wisdom and to submit to the wisdom and not try to resist it, because 2016 was crazy enjoyable. We got to do a lot of things. We got to celebrate with a lot of friends. We got to travel. We love to travel. And I felt like every opportunity that we got to experience that we probably couldn't experience when we do have a family was experienced to the fullest. We reminded ourselves all the time, kind of jokingly, like, hey, you know, we might not be able to do these kind of things, like sleeping in really late, grabbing brunch, and walking the beach when we have a family, when we have children that dictate our lives. And so going into 2017, we knew that we were going to pursue family, whatever that. So I kind of just wanted to walk you guys through who we are, how we met, how long this journey has kind of been going on, and what brought us to this point. Because initially we started this journey because we wanted to adopt, and we heard that you could through this avenue. After we learned everything that we learned, we realized that it's not just about us. My last post, my last video, I shared that I'm selfish, and that's how I felt going through this whole situation. So in my next video, I'm going to share with you guys about how the process works. That's probably been the most common question with a lot of people is, how does the process work, and what's next for us? What have we done already to get to where we are? And I know that for me, as someone who was interested in foster care and adoption and what it all was and what it meant, I could not find any resources, even on the state websites, about what to expect or how to understand, even now while we're waiting for the home study, what to expect. I don't know. We're just waiting, and I'm pretty adamant about, if you know me, I'm pretty adamant. And so when I had the person's contact that was going to be doing our home study, I, since even just a week ago, emailed her at least 4 or 5 different times to get an understanding of what to expect. And so I want to just kind of be the person or some sort of resource for someone that might be curious about the situation, someone that might be interested in pursuing it themselves, but then also give you guys a little insight to where we are at this point and answer a couple questions that a lot of people have asked us. So I hope you tune in.